each piece of truth and revelation has led me to a crazier like rabbit hole where I'm like, how did I end up here? But
Oh,
when you compile all the data, it's like, whoa, like totally was over my head for so many years. And now that's my whole journey with my husband, and the way the doctors guided us and was just like never gave us any of the solutions that we found that actually worked, you know? So it was just the information's there, but it's presented as crazy. And so it takes a long journey, and usually some type of intrinsic motivation, which is usually a diagnosis or something along those lines, where you have to figure it out for yourself, because otherwise there's consequences that are about to come. But for the average person that doesn't have that yet, they have no desire to go down that rabbit hole. And people that have gone down that rabbit hole and try and share some of the wisdoms, they're seen as crazy or conspiracy theorists or whatever it is, you know?
totally,
So
totally. And
that's
we
been
can,
my question. Like, how do we battle, like, how do we break through that barrier, you know?
I think we just present the information from a common sense standpoint. Like, I can go so far down the rabbit hole with you on this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but if, but there's no sense in going down a rabbit hole unless we first start to just let's look at the common sense,
Mm-hmm.
easy to understand. You peel back that first layer of the onion
Mm-hmm.
into what people aren't thinking about, right? And unfortunately, it's sad because we're both casualties of it as well, right?
Yeah.
Is we live in a world that's moving so fast, and seldom do we have that time to just kind of take a moment and check out for a minute and just think about these things, right? People are busy with kids, they're busy with grandkids, they're busy with work. Like, we live in a very busy, a very informational society where things are coming at us
Mm-hmm.
faster and more frequently than they ever have, right? And you and I are lucky that we're actually just taking a check out for a few minutes to look at just kind of thinking for a moment, right? And if we can use our checkout time that we're doing to think about these things to give people the opportunity for their checkout time, or at least inspire or educate on what we're learning, hopefully we can help check some boxes for people or turn some light bulbs on, or just bring that information to somebody that didn't have that time to check out, right? And hopefully they like the message that we're presenting in a way that makes sense, right? And we're just going to present it raw. We're going to make mistakes. We don't know everything, but we're coming from this place of curiosity where let's learn and let's understand and figure out how we put these pieces together. And then as we go through this discovery of self, and hopefully it makes some difference for some other people's lives as well, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I think that's part of the advantage, is we're so close to that. Like, people that have already gone down that rabbit hole for years, like they're in the middle of it, where they've lost that connection to what it's like to be on the other side. And so, I mean, for me, I'm just over 4 years into this journey. So I'm very fairly new, where I'm like, I remember what I used to think prior to all of this. And I remember how I would have judged something like this prior to all of this. So I think having that awareness of where people are and where they can be is to our advantage, and that we're kind of normal people, right? Because everyone's a doctor, and now it's just kind of like nobody knows, like people just use that as a label to try and get, prestige,
Accolades.
credential. Like, they don't always know what they're doing. So being like a normal person and just being humble about the content, just like, we don't know it all. Honestly, nobody knows it all, but we're here with our own personal journeys and personal truths, which tie into other similar truths that people have experienced. And we're here compiling the data and posing those questions and answering them for ourselves, and hopefully inspiring other people to do the same. And so, yeah, I kind of like that just common background. We're motivated more by like love and service to the world versus like it was our job title, you know?
Totally.
So,
Totally. And I'm never going to profess to be an expert
yeah.
or a doctor or a nutritionalist or anything. I'm just a dad,
Mhm.
with two kids and two step kids. And I've beat the living tar out of my body for 40 years, and got diabetes as a result of it, had sicknesses, had these things. So I'd say, for the average person, I'm an average person, right? You're a mom, a wife, raising a family, has a husband, with type 1 diabetes. Like we're not victims here of anything,
Yeah.
right? We're just waking up to getting a better understanding of how things are working around us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we go back to the foods for a second, no food company, I'm going to put the natural foods aside here for a second.
Mm-hmm.
The mainstream grocery store brands that are on our television sets, on the billboards, on the radios, all this kind of stuff for us to buy, none of them ever celebrate the ingredients. They celebrate the feeling, they celebrate the happiness, they celebrate the emotion that's created by their foods.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why is that? Because they don't offer anything other than that.
Oh yeah.
Right? And so we've got a really good place to really tear into this. Like what we're talking about here is a great opening to the rabbit holes we can go down, or the stories of discovery that we can go down, and the education that we can provide as we learn the education ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if we keep it simple and we keep it real, right, as to just basing it on factual information, and not I feel this about that or I feel this about that.
Mm-hmm.
We take the feeling, emotional decision making out of it and just hit it at the raw core. This is like, okay, I feel these ingredients suck, right?
Yeah.
Well, somebody may feel that they feel good,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now I've got into a potential position where we can argue about that. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to argue with anybody. I just want to say, here's what's in it. Here's what's being sold to you.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what these things do. Right? And if somebody disagrees with that, they're more than welcome to go on the internet and search those ingredients and find out where they're healthy, and come back to us and say, hey, modified, dried cheddar and blue cheese lactic acid and calcium, actually, I found good healing, positive benefits for the body. Bring it on.
I love it. There's no room for debate. Like,
Yeah,
I
like
love it, because that's
totally.
what the internet is full of. Everyone and their opinions. But when you
Right.
present it in that way, it's like really no room for debate. It's like, oh, okay.
And
Those
we're
are
gonna
all
we're gonna go and research this information, not in some password protected environment or not in some ecosystem that nobody has access to. We go straight to what's the first thing that most people do nowadays when they're looking for information? They go to Google, right? All right. So let's go to Google and let's just see, because the other thing is, and I know this for a fact, is Google is highly funded by big pharma, and Google will suppress natural botanicals and natural health, right? That's their algorithm set to do that. I'm not picking on Google right now, but it's the truth, right? So let's just see. I don't even know how to say this word, and I'm gonna have to get glasses. Maltodextrin. All right.
Sugar.
White powder made from corn, rice, potato starch, and wheat. Even though it comes from plants, it's highly processed to make it. First, the starches are cooked, then acids or enzymes such as heat stable bacteria, alpha malase are added to break it down further. Sounds pretty natural to me. Side effects, and I'm just right here on the front page of Google. That's the description. People also ask side effects may include allergic reactions, weight gain, gas, flatulence, and bloating. Maltodextrin may also cause a rash or skin irritation, asthma, cramping, difficulty breathing. Awesome.
Wow.
Awesome. So I just had dinner. That's what I get to look forward to.
Yeah.
Right? So if we can just help people wake up to just make that question that, you know what, maybe I'm not going to make this for dinner tonight.
Yeah.
And maybe tonight I'm going to put that on the shelf and just think of something a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Then we've just taken a little bit of workload off the immune system, a little bit of workload off the digestive system, and just giving people an understanding of what that is.
Yeah, and with that product specifically, like it's rice, right? Like you can buy straight up rice, without all that stuff in it, which is, again, the way the grains are stored, there's, a whole other conversation with that, but at least it's eliminating the maltodextrose, whatever it is, the sucrose, the
Totally.
whatever chemicals that are in there, at least eliminating some of the agitation so it doesn't all like compound in your system all at once. So like you have a box of rice, but I know you can also just buy a box of grains, just organic brown rice, right? And when you look at the ingredient, it's brown rice. So
totally. So you do that, fry up some hamburger or fry up some chicken, take some natural herbs, you're going to get something close to this. And yes, the meat isn't optimal nowadays. The chicken isn't optimal, but if you're going to be eating that chicken and that meat anyways, right? You make it with natural brown rice, you make it with natural herbs. At the very least, you cut all this other crap out.
Yeah.
So it's a step, it's a start, and it's a step forward.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's the little
process of elimination over time,
totally,
right?
Totally. And you just slowly chip away at it, because people that try to make rapid transformation overnight, it's not going to happen. We're just going to fall back into our ways of doing it. So it's just one smart decision each day will help curb a lifestyle.
Well, and some of those people get hyper detoxing symptoms. Like when you're getting rid of everything at once, it is sometimes a not so pleasant experience. Like the unpleasantness on like of just having to make the change, but then also like the detoxing. Like think of an addict, right? They go through a detox, and it's similar depending on how toxic the person is. Some people have like a similar reaction where they kind of feel sick for a period of time while they're getting all that junk out of their system. So
well, and it's the gut communicating with the brain saying, where did all this happiness that you were feeding me go?
Yeah, bring it back, we want more.
Bring it back. It's the yeast fighting saying, feed me, feed me, feed me. It's those happy thought enzymes that we've been feeding through the crap that we've been feeding it, just crying out for help. I need more crap. I need more crap. Please feed me. Right? These vegetables, these carrots, these broccolis, they're not giving it to me. Like I need the junk. And it's hard. Like it's not an easy thing to overcome.
Oh yeah. And then even as a parent, we feed our kids what we think they're gonna like, so like
we feed them to shut them up.
Yeah, and that's true. Where I'm like, man, I'm so glad I learned what I learned when I learned it, because I had just had my first child. I'm like, I can raise her on, fruit and vegetables, and like they eat their broccoli now with ease. They request it. So I'm like, wow, this is amazing. It can be done. We just have to, know the things a little bit sooner.
Totally. And that, that's another thing that we should look at too is, the baby foods and the foods that the kids are getting from an early age. And we're not doing this to pick on parents. Like, we're
No.
not doing this that if people are feeding their families this stuff, like, this isn't a witch hunt.
Yeah.
This is just us going through our discovery to understand these things and just ask the question,
Mm.
right?
Oh yeah.
Because we're just as guilty as charged at eating and feeding and using these things on a daily basis. So I never want to come across, or have you and I come across, in a spirit that of judgment or
Yeah.
anything like that, because
Oh yeah.
that's not what this is about. It's just about learning and understanding, and just providing information that we learn, and people can do whatever they want with the information. They can accept it, they can reject it, and